Hi, I'm Corey.
Hi, I'm Tess.
Welcome to A Lovely Place.
We're so glad you've joined us as we invite Jesus into the midst of our lives, learning, and laughter.
We hope this podcast can encourage your heart and make you smile today. Hi, friend.
Hello.
We're going to be lazy geniuses in our kitchen again.
Yes, we are. I've really been enjoying this book. I enjoy that it's like simple, even though she has a lot of information, it's easy to understand.
Yes.
And I enjoy her humor every time I read it.
And then I was thinking this episode is 31, like 31 flavors from Baskin Robbins. And there's 31 flavors of people's kitchens. Like I was just like, I love how she gives permissions to different people and what their important thing is right now. Like,
right?
If you want to be a gourmet chef, go for it. If you want to cook a freezer meal, just heat it up, man.
Right?
Have you seen that meme or whatever? Something about feeding your kid frozen chicken nuggets. And they're like, but please warm them up. Like,
yes.
You're serving them cold. And I was like, oh, man. There's room for everybody's kitchen in this book.
Yes. Everything doesn't have to matter to everyone. We can each have our own things that are important to us, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
That frees up a lot of stress, I think.
Yes, definitely so.
So the first section or area we're talking about today. So we're still in the have what you need like part of the book.
Yeah.
And the
area section.
Yes, the area we're talking about is prep, which is getting your kitchen ready for later. And she says, prep is the steady pulse of your kitchen. It's a rhythmic stability that upholds what really matters. So kind of talking about how we all have a rhythm in our kitchen. It might be different, but how can we lazy genius that? So,
yeah.
Oh, goodness.
I was laughing because I was cleaning out the refrigerator the other night or whenever it was. And that container that I'd gotten from my mom that I was putting vegetables in to just grab that out. It's been sitting in there empty. The carrots and the cucumbers, they were in baggies and they were in other things because we kept taking them other places. So I just thought it was humorous that container was still sitting in there like, I'm waiting for when you prepare. So I just was like, should I take it out of there? But it was like, it's fine. It's still in there. It's being chilled, ready to receive vegetables in any minute.
Yeah.
So, that helps me prep that part.
Good. One thing that I was reflecting on as I was reading this is, the other day, we had a person come to check our refrigerator because there's been this weird leak on the bottom of it, and to see if we could get it repaired instead of just replacing it.
Yeah.
And he pulled out the bottom deli meat drawer.
Uh-oh.
And my fridge is terrible. Like the drawers are the worst things to try to actually get out of their spots, which I'm like, why make this so difficult? I don't understand that. So I had never pulled that one out ever. I've cleaned it, like, wiped it down and stuff, but I've never fully pulled it out. Well, he pulled it out and there was like this pile of shattered glass. So I think that when we bought it from an outlet store, like where it came in and it was like dented and it had gotten returned on delivery and then it was a discounted price. But I think what actually happened was one of the shelves shattered and they replaced the shelf, but they didn't clean out the glass. So I spent pretty much all of last Monday afternoon, like cleaning out the fridge, like fully cleaning it out, like wiping everything down, pulling every single thing out. And then afterwards I was like, oh, it looks so nice.
Yeah.
And I can see all the food I have. And it just felt so much nicer. So that reminded me of the importance of prep, like, and having rhythms where we go through and whatever it may be, you attach it to a certain task, but where you clean out what you have, you get rid of old food, you know, like, and see what you want to eat through, like how important that is, you know?
And what's a science experiment that accidentally got pushed too far back there?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and so it just makes me think, because I think it was in this section where she was talking about, you know, like, I don't know if it was in this section either way, but
just
like
talk about it.
Having a day like where, you know, and I was thinking it could be the day before the trash goes out or something, like where you clean your fridge and then you're ready to, like, when you go grocery shopping, you're ready to bring your groceries back and have a place for them instead of trying to shove everything in and then things getting pushed to the back and becoming science experiments.
Right. I like to do that too on that. But sometimes I was like, okay, well, when is my shopping day and does that actually work? But I've been trying to think a little bit more like what we are going to eat so then we can actually eat it so that I'm not having science experiments.
Yes.
So then I'm like, maybe I need to go to the store more often and buy less instead of
that's a good idea.
I don't know. So back to school schedule, maybe I can change because now this episode will be in October. So maybe I'll have had some more epiphanies. But I feel like right now, recording in the summertime, I'm in anticipation of the fall and having a cup of hot tea at night and finding that one soup recipe that I want to make in the crock pot. And so I'm getting ready for that, even though it's 100-degree weather and 90-degree weather for the next 2 weeks. And it's like, no soup, no soup,
no soup for you.
Yeah. So that, well, and then I was teasing to you before that I feel like on how many ever episodes that we've been chatting about food, I keep coming back to the meal planning thing. So I think I really am going to try to implement that Dawn the Minimal Mom thing where she just had the grocery list that she normally shops for. Because I think I've been doing that, but now I could like just have it on the refrigerator and check it off when
check what you need.
Like, okay, next week we're going to eat mushrooms, but not this week. Like, because I'm the only one that eats them. And so I don't want to eat slimy mushrooms, just saying. Right. But it's like, if I don't plan like, oh, this is going to be mushroom week, then they go slimy.
Yes. Well, so one thing that Daniel and I found is that after vacation, which was the end of June, we kind of just went off the rails on like not really planning any thing and just like, and then I realized we looked back at our budget and we were like, wow, we spent a lot of money on groceries. Yeah. That's a problem. So we've decided now we're getting back into the rhythm of like budget meetings and also figuring out like having a plan. And I don't mean like a really rigid plan, but at least having a dinner idea of like, you know, something that we're having for dinner each night, whether we decide we switch it at some point or whatever, but at least we have the things for the meal every night, even if it is frozen pizza or, you know, hot dogs or whatever those, but at least we know like the choose or decide once principle, you know? Which then makes it easier when we're going to the store and we're working together on like having meals that the kids like so that they're not always wanting to snack at other times because snacks are freaking expensive. Like, really?
And usually they're not the healthiest of what we want to snack on, right? Like the empty container of vegetables is not very accessible when it's empty.
Right? Well, and we made a deal with the boys. Like, we're going to start giving them a certain amount of money for snacks, and they're going to come to the store with us and pick out the snacks that they want. We're trying this at least for now. Right. And those are their snacks for the week. And if they eat them in one day, they eat them in one day. And fruits and veggies are a free snack. Like, I will always have fruits and veggies that they can have as a snack. But if they're wanting their processed whatever snack food, and if they eat through it, then too bad for them. Yeah. So we're trying to see if that will help them get in a better attitude about snacks. Because sometimes they're just like, I don't want to eat this meal, but I will go pull like 10 things from the pantry.
Yeah, I'm going to
and
have
I'll just
granola
eat all of
bar and
those.
granola bar and
right? And I'm like,
fruit
this
snacks.
has to stop.
Yeah.
This has to stop.
Yeah.
So I feel like that plays into the prep conversation. We're prepping before we go to the grocery store. We're
Yeah.
and it's better. It's been more successful this week, at least.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to, like, where, I don't know if it was in this one, but she was talking about where you're putting stuff, like, organizing by zones or whatever.
Yes.
And just like I'm challenged to figure out how to organize things. So Riker could go reach, here's where the fruit is, or here's the things, like he could get to it a little bit easier. So he's a little bit more self-sufficient in the kitchen. But I'm not sure how that looks with the space I have with what's happening. So that's kind of an interesting Tetris game, but just trying to get the ideas of where the things are located, and then so he can get to it, and so then it makes breakfast easier, lunch, like, here, go get this. But I do like that he has to ask for a snack too, like, can I go have this? And then he gets a chair and he can go and get it. But I was just like, well, what if that was on the bottom shelf? Would that be better? And then he wasn't like dragging chairs around the kitchen all the time,
right?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a toss-up. I do like what Kendra says about having like a snack section that are the okay snacks for your kids to have. But I feel like my kids would take advantage of that. Like, now I'm going to have 4 of these. Well, no, like.
Well, and then with the new snack idea you're trying, where do they get to keep that? Do you have a place for that yet? Of the snacks they bought?
In the pantry, unless we told them you could choose to use your snack money for ice cream, like if you want, and nobody else will eat it, it will be yours. But they chose some things from like the bulk section at Winco, so they just go in the pantry. But
yeah, so they can get to it.
I think eventually, if this seems like it is working well, I'll give us each our own little like basket that we have in the pantry, so we know like this is this person's snack. It's not for someone else to eat.
Well, and then what do you do? Do you guys eat school lunches or do you pack lunches?
We are going to be packing lunches this year. So, so I'll probably have some items that will just be for school lunches. Like they won't be for eating at home. It will just be for lunch.
Yeah.
So I might have to restructure the pantry at that point, But I do love the idea of these zones that she talks about. And I know we've talked about that in other podcasts as well. But I was thinking in the fridge, the eat this zone and the don't eat this zone. I thought those were helpful. Like, so if you have things that you want to, that are about to be past their time or whatever, they would go in the eat this zone. Because then I think for like Daniel, he takes leftovers for work a lot. So that would give me a spot to say like, these are things I would like you to take with you so they'll get eaten.
Yeah.
And then the don't eat this zone for like things that you're going to need for a recipe later in the week to make sure that you still have it when you make the meal. So I thought those were really good ideas to implement. That would just take some rearranging in the fridge,
Yeah.
So, because clearly I struggle sometimes with food being in there and not getting noticed,
Yeah. Well, and then I was just going off not off. I was going off the rails, but I know we're like talking about the table in a second. But in the beginning of this book, she kind of was recapping the different Lazy Genius principles. So on page 14, if you have the book with you, decide once, start small, ask the magic question, live in the season, build the right routine. So that one I feel like I've been focusing on is we're like changing into the fall thing.
Yeah.
House rules, let people in, batch it, all the different things. So I just kind of went through that last night, just thinking of like these chapters on food and prep and table. Like what are the principles I could put to practice? And then I liked how in one of the chapters she was like, oh, I only have 3 house rules. Like she felt like she had like 20 of them. And she was like, no, there's only 3 of them that need to have the sink cleaned. And I think that one's a pretty popular one across all YouTube people that I follow. Get your sink cleaned before you go to bed. Check.
Yes.
That's like brushing your teeth, people. Oh, floss? Okay. So,
and I think that has to do kind of with the magic question too, with the cleaning your sink. Like, what's going to make tomorrow easier,
right?
Or the morning easier? And I think for me, that is, even if it takes, which I didn't used to do this, but now we have it built into our bedtime routine that we do we run the dishes, we get the sink cleaned out, and it's not perfect every time. Like, there's probably maybe one night a week that it's like, we ran the dishwasher, but it was too full. Like there wasn't enough room for a couple of the dishes. And so the sink isn't fully empty, but it's to the point where we can still keep our routine going the next day,
Yeah.
Which has helped with feeling like we're still on top of things.
Yeah.
I really loved the section about the table. So that's the next area that she talks about. It's really good. One thing that I did like was her reminder that you can always borrow something you need but have already essentialized. Like, thinking through like tablecloths. I think the other day I realized I got rid of all my tablecloths because I don't use them ever. And then I was like, oh, but I might have wanted to use them for guests. So I like that she's like, it's okay. You can borrow it. You don't have to have it. So I was like, that's a good reminder.
Yeah. Or find one favorite one that you use for a certain time. Not that you have to add something, but I was just thinking of the table, like different seasons the table gets to have. Like, what is it? What is it functioning as? And
right.
Is there pumpkins all over your table? Or is there nothing on your table? I think I like it, nothing on it.
Yeah.
But everything is on it. Right. Normally.
Yes. I've been trying to build into our routine lately, like that at least twice a day. It might not be after every meal, but at least twice a day the table gets emptied and wiped off.
Nice.
You know? Because otherwise things can build up on there.
Yeah.
And I have thought maybe we do need a smaller table. She was talking about like, deciding like what is most important to you about your table. Not your physical table, but where you gather to eat. And I wrote 2 words down, but I said these are competing values because I wrote down cozy and easy to clean. And I'm like, often those two don't work well together. Like if something's cozy, it's usually like fabric, like, or homey in some way, and it's probably not the easiest to just like spray and clean. But so I'm like trying to figure that out. Like, how can I make those two things work together? But I don't think our actual eating space is incredibly cozy. So I'm thinking maybe we need to like mix things up a little and change things. I don't know.
Yeah. I've been thinking since and I think I've said this before a few times, moving the bookshelves into the kitchen so then it's a homeschool space.
Yeah.
So then the chairs get used for like we take them to the living room for a small group that we host, and then we're at the table a lot, whether we're playing board games or doing school or coloring or whatever. We end up at the table.
Yeah.
So I was reevaluating the chairs and the comfort level of the chairs. And so then it was like, okay, so I moved some comfy chairs, but it kind of looks cluttered now because so I need to essentialize again. And then perhaps a project I'm going to do is to recover the chairs and add a cushion.
Oh, okay.
That would be nice. And then Riker's a little bit older, so maybe we don't need to have you can just spray it off seat. Like I was like, oh, when do we spill things? Can it just be stain resistant? Does it have to actually be vinyl? That's what I did when he was like little and there was food everywhere. And it was just
living in your season.
Right. So I was like, well, maybe we're in a season we could have stain resistant chairs that were a little cozier than vinyl. And then I could have more options maybe of what it looked like.
Yeah.
Or something. So I was just thinking of the chairs and then the feeling of just again of like no phones at the table.
Yes.
Was important to me. And that's been a summer. We've been all over the place on our timelines. And Yay, I've been getting to sleep in, and so that makes my breakfast time sometimes different than the other parts of the family. And sometimes
Yes.
we're in the kitchen. I don't know. It's just I was just trying to have to let it go. Like, but
Right.
I'm excited to get back to we're all at the table around at dinner time, and we're all eating
Yes.
together. Like we're gonna get into that rhythm again. So I'm trying to enjoy the spontaneity of summer, but
Yes.
anticipation of fall and back to school and
Right.
getting into that rhythm. And then with the end emotional eating book we've been reading, it plays into the planning of the kitchen to be able to have the good choices. So I'm
Yeah.
just thankful that God's put all these pieces together, and I'm thankful for you to talk about this. Like, because it's like, I know it's a lot, is what I'm
It
saying. So
is.
I'm trying to go back to basic things and keep it simple, is
Yes.
my remembering my mantra, and not go into I can never eat this, because as we learned in the
Right.
other book, that's not usually a good place to be.
Yes.
And so trying to change my relationship with food and being a lazy genius sounds like that's helpful.
Yeah, I agree. I like having a friend to go on this journey with because it's just better when you do things with someone else. Which
Yeah.
reminds me of what she was talking about why I liked this chapter so much because it was challenging me a little bit.
Yeah.
I in my nature, I love having people over. I love having people over and sharing life. And I
Yeah.
think when we added a third kid, that has felt really a lot harder because sometimes it feels like our schedule is just messier, our like
Mm-hmm.
with naps and all of those things, and our house
Yeah.
sometimes feels messier, even though we are working on like, getting rid of things and simplifying things. Sometimes it does feel like it's just like everything is everywhere again.
Yeah.
And I love what she said. Your fear of gathering is still rooted in unreasonable expectations of how things are supposed to be. And she gave like a little list. You do not have to cook the meal. You do not have to have a tablescape.
Yeah.
You do not have to impress people with how kind and gracious and hosty you are.
Yeah.
You do not have to have a clean house. You do not have to have a dirty house to prove that you're real. You do not even have to have a table. And I love that because I think sometimes I get in my mind what gathering with people is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
And then kind of like that perfectionism thing that we were talking about last episode. And then I just am like, well, that doesn't like those expectations can't happen with the way my life is right now. So I guess maybe I just won't do it.
Yeah.
And then she said, if your experience around the table is rooted in performance and other people's presumptions about what that experience should look like, you will either be stressed out by gatherings or avoid them altogether.
Mm.
Don't let insecurity rob you of the joy of the table. And we had some friends over, like our small group, the other night, and it was so nice to have everybody here. And I'm like trying to challenge this expectation that I have of myself, which I have it everywhere I go, which is just annoying. But
Hmm.
this expectation that like I will make sure that I'm carrying like my part of the conversation, if you will, or making sure that people are connecting with each other.
Okay.
I don't know why that's an expectation I have. I'm still trying to like sort through that. But it was a good exercise when the people were here to like remind myself like I am not the person responsible to make sure that everyone else has good conversation. Like that's not my deal. And it is okay like if I'm feeling like I'm in a quieter mood, it's okay for me to be quiet. Like I don't have to push myself out of whatever, like
Yeah.
the space I'm in just to feel like I need to accommodate other people. And we had such a fun gathering. And so it was just a good reminder like perfectionism and this performance mentality shouldn't play a part in dictating like how I connect with people. That
Yeah.
it's the people that matter, and it's
Yeah.
the connecting. So I love this chapter. It's such a good reminder,
Hmm.
like why we have a table, why we gather around the
Right.
table.
And what are we doing? And there was some questions she asked somewhere, like, decide once, like, what are you going to have when people come over for the first time? Or, I don't know where that was, but it just made me think that yesterday we had a friend, of Stefan from college or university come over. And so I was like, what can we do that's simple? And then we ended up on turkey pesto sandwiches, and Stefan can make those. So it took all the pressure off of me to be cooking in the kitchen, and I didn't have to do
Yeah.
that. So he did that part. And so I love that, especially in the summertime. Like, he's the grill master, whether it's the grill outside or the grill in the kitchen. And then I was just getting the fruit that was cut out and just put it out, and I wasn't trying to be fussed about how it landed. Like,
Yeah.
so it just was nice to feel like, oh, I think I've learned some things from Kendra about people coming over, that they care more about being with you than if the grapes were in a glass bowl or in a plastic container, which I did put some in a glass bowl because it was easy to get to and I had it right there. But
Yes. Well, and I think that goes back
it's
to like
nice.
what Kendra talks about with the vibe. Like,
Yeah.
there is always a vibe that is, that comes across when you have people over or when you gather at the table.
Right.
And we all have a different vibe that we're wanting, but I can guarantee no one wants a stressful vibe.
Yeah.
And so it's
What?
good that figured out the rhythm of that gathering so that it wasn't a stressful vibe.
Yeah. It was like, just calm down. Oh,
Yeah.
what? I don't know what you're talking about.
But I love the verse
Yes.
that we picked for today, because I think it just reminds me of like the reason why we gather together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Acts 2:46 through 47. It says, every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who are being saved. So I think it just reminds me like God cares about the way that we gather with each other,
Mm-hmm.
and he wants us to do it. It's not like our life isn't about just putting our heads down and, doing our own thing. Like, it's about gathering with each other.
Yeah.
And so it's important. So it's something good to be intentional about.
Yes. And I love that your version said something different than mine. Mine said gladness and simplicity of heart, and yours said
Glad and sincere hearts.
insincere. I just love that it was like the attitude, the vibe of the table was happy, which I think in turn answers the next part of the verse where that people were added to the church daily, were being
Mm-hmm.
saved. Like, so if we're eating food and we're sharing food and sharing Jesus's joy, then that invites people into him in a
Yeah.
way that is like, oh yeah, this is like a family. I can be a part of his family. Like,
Right.
I just love that. Like, what, and I don't always remember this with my own family, but it's more important I'm running or remembering when people are coming over. Like,
Yeah.
so that challenges me right now in this sentence I'm saying out loud. Like, how can I care for my family more and honor that time to
Yes.
draw?
Draw
Yeah.
their hearts
Wow.
into Jesus.
Even just like in your marriages and your parenting, like coming around the
Mm.
table together for a meal makes such a difference. And it's
Yeah.
such a simple thing, friends.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Whether your table's tall, short, a picnic blanket, inside, outside.
Right? Yeah, that's good. That's
Yeah.
good.
Oh, I like it.
Well, and that just reminds me, I think there's a podcast on Don't Mom Alone about like, was it Don't Mom Alone, where she was talking about like teaching her kids to honor others, like,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
part of that would be at the table, like, as we can do little things to make other people feel honored
Yeah.
when we dine with them. I just love that.
I don't remember, but I think that was on Don't Mom Alone.
Yeah. We can find it somewhere.
We'll find it. Yeah. Because I think that was giving the kids, like, they had to buy into the situation, like setting the table. And
yeah.
So maybe I just move my plates everywhere so Riker can reach them.
Yeah. I've actually thought about, I was looking on Amazon because I was trying to lazy genius our, you know, like dinner time and things like that. And they have these racks that have the napkins on them and a spot for silverware and then a spot for the plates. They have really janky looking ones that are clearly for camping, but I was thinking one for at home fancier, that's nicer looking. And I'm like, I think I need to get that because then it could just be, we carry this to the counter where we're dishing up or to the table if we're dishing up at the table. And then it's like simple, but it's nice looking. Because I do like things to feel nice and not necessarily fancy, but not always like, oh, we just have the kid dishes again, you know, like that.
Aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah. So I'm realizing that's a value of mine that I think maybe I've ignored for a long time. I think I realized it when we started using our china, like instead of having it just in our hutch or in boxes when we moved, that it's like, oh, we use it and it looks beautiful and it reminds me of our wedding and reminds me of like good memories. And I see it every day now and I use it every day instead of it just being something that I know is there, but I don't ever touch, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. So I guess, you know, as we finish up this section, I think the one thing that like keeps coming out to me through this book is like knowing what's important to you. Like, that's such a good thing to know what you value and know what matters to you because, and know what makes you feel alive. Because when you're living in a way that you are feeling that, you know, being sustained, right, instead of drained or whatever. Yeah. You come from a much better place. Anyway.
Well, and then you don't have to compare. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, there's 31 flavors of kitchens, right? Like, it's like we don't have to be the other person. We get to be strawberry ice cream and they get to be Rocky Road or whatever, you know, like just like, hey.
Yes.
There's I think
there's
that's
room
a good thing.
for all.
Yeah. And I think that releases, like, I don't know why I got hung up on bookshelves in the dining room. Like, and every time I've said anything to anybody in person, they're like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. Like, you're homeschooling, like, duh, put your stuff where you're going to do it. Like, so this was like, okay, cool. I'm going to live in my season and be in that moment. And and it's fine. And it will figure out its way to look like it's cute. Right. Or maybe it doesn't have to look cute. I don't know. But I was trying to figure out what we need to have to make it work and not just buy a bunch of baskets just because I want to.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, okay. Anyways, we could ramble on and on about lazy genius principles.
All right. Well, our next episode will be on the next chapter of End Emotional Eating, and we are making our way through. And I guess we'll talk to everybody next time.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye.